Shalom, shalom. So in order to understand the events of the Waco massacre in 1993, we first have to talk about a man named Victor Houteff. Victor was the member of a Seventh-day Adventist congregation in California in the 1920s. In 1929, he believed that God sent him a message that the church was misinterpreting part of the scripture in Isaiah and the book of Revelation. He began discussing this new interpretation he had of scripture in his Sabbath school classes and Bible studies, and this caused a bit of concern within the Seventh-day Adventist church. He was asked by leaders within the church to stop discussing this with other members because they wanted to protect their members from misinformation. Victor believed he was doing God's work though, so he kept talking about this, and in 1930 he was disfellowshipped from the congregation. Later that year, he published his book called The Shepherd's Rod, where he broke down everything that he believed that he was interpreting from these scriptures. Now, it's important to note that at this point in time, Victor was not trying to start a new church. He wasn't trying to gain followers. He was just trying to spread this message that he believed was from God. He didn't want to start a new religion. He advocated for total reformation of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. He gave copies of his book to high-ranking members within the Seventh-day Adventist Church and even had meetings and hearings with them to discuss his message. Ultimately, he was declared a heretic and he was kicked out of the church for good. When he was kicked out, there were quite a few people from that congregation that believed in what he was saying and that followed him. This growing group of people were known as the Shepherd's Rod, or sometimes Davidians, and as they got larger, they needed a home base. In 1935, they purchased 189 acres just outside of Waco, Texas. The Shepherd's Rod organization built a large building on the property, which became their headquarters and was known as the Mount Carmel Center. They chose this name as a reference to Elijah, calling the Israelites back to worship God. 186 additional acres were purchased in 1937. Now you may be thinking, wait a minute, I thought he wasn't trying to start a religion. And he wasn't, but he would later say that because the Seventh-day Adventist Church had put a siege on his faith and left him no other choice, he had to find some other place to worship. In 1942, the group officially became known as the Davidian Seventh-day Adventists.